Hi, I'm Brandon McDonald, CEO of Fireweed Zinc. Thanks for joining me today as I run you through Fireweed's McMillan Pass project, where we're at and where we're going. In a short summary, why would you look at a company like Fireweed? Well, we're at the beginning of what we think is a nascent bull market in commodities. As usual, gold and silver are the tip of the spear, and base metals will follow. So as you're looking for high quality base metal plays, you consider, what commodities do I want to invest in? What metals are most interesting? We think zinc in particular very interesting because of expected substantial stimulus, trillions of dollars, potentially 10 trillion worldwide invested in infrastructure. Infrastructure means steel, steel means galvanization, and galvanization means zinc. And Fireweed's McMillan Pass project is not just in terms of a standout in terms of size or economics, but probably most importantly, the blue sky potential there, how much bigger it has the potential to get. It's a true district. So when you're looking at which companies you might want to invest in, of course, we know that the best companies move first and move furthest. And we think Fireweed is absolutely one of the best companies in this space. The best and biggest names in the industry are already paying attention to us. Resource Capital Funds, a substantial mining private equity firm out of Colorado, has invested in us. Teck Resources, the world's third largest zinc miner, has invested in us. And, they see what we see, that we have a fantastic resource already, and that we're building on that with the game-changing boundary zone in the western part of the property, and that fundamentally right now we still remain cheap. And what we mean by cheap is when you look at, say, for example, what happened with Arizona Mining a few years ago. This was a company that got bought for 2.1 billion Canadian in cash by South 32 in mid-2018, and that provided a 30x return for shareholders in the last 2.5 years. And that was a zinc company, and that's the largest single asset pre-production takeout in the last 5 years in the junior space. So perhaps you don't find zinc that interesting, but they get big and the transactions get large. And the Taylor Hermosa project, Arizona's project at the time, about 3 times what ours was as of the 2018 resource. But what I want to show you here is how we're closing that gap and what that means for our potential valuation. And we do all this, and I think it's an important preamble to say that Fireweed is, a member of the Discovery Group, and that has all sorts of successful companies. We work towards, profitable exit for all shareholders. We make sure management has skin in the game. We focus on long-term value creation, and we always treat all shareholders with respect. We take pride in our disclosure and the way we communicate with our shareholders. Our project, look, in summary, Eastern Yukon Territory, near the NWT border, accessible by the Canal Road. Concentrate could potentially be taken to the port of Skagway for transportation to Asia, or to northern BC to be taken by rail to Teck Smelter and Trail. The 2018 resource, which I alluded to a little bit earlier, that was a snapshot at a point in time and looked great. 11.2 million tons indicated, 39.5 million tons inferred at about 10% zinc equivalent. But this, was only 2 zones in the property. This is at a time when the property was just about 10% of the size it is now. And on the back of that, we built or commissioned a preliminary economic assessment, or PEA, which showed healthy after-tax IRR and NPV, and most importantly, a long multi-cycle mine life, which is critical for cyclical metals. But that was a snapshot at 2018. Since then, we've received support from the government in terms of a $71 million funding package for access roads to the project, which will help defer some of our upfront capex. We've seen significant exploration success at both the end zone and, more importantly, the boundary zone. And we've done additional engineering on the project and exploration step outs at Tom and Jason, which were the core of the project for this resource update and PEA. So things are getting a lot better. And when you look at the broader project now, Tom and Jason in the southeast of this map, those were 2 fantastic deposits that we bought off Hud Bay, but there's so much more to this project now. We've done incremental deals to expand the project from about 50 square kilometers to over 500. And, now following that fertile corridor, as we call it, which traces a major district bounding fault and, conduit for these fluids, we see other known zones as well as potential for many more. And it's a boundary zone in the western part of the property that's been so critical to capturing the imagination of the investment community recently. This was a zone that last year we released 2 drill holes, one of which was 230 meters true width from surface of 4.1% zinc. And the first 100 meters of that from surface was nearly 8% zinc. So this is a zone that lower grade over broad intervals, over a long strike length and down dip. But locally, 6 meters true width of 42% zinc. So locally, still very high grade intersections. So this kind of captured our imagination. It captured a lot of the market's imagination. It got us thinking, well, Boundary Zone doesn't look a lot like Tom and Jason. Tom and Jason, if you're familiar with the term, are what you might consider SEDEX deposits, or now perhaps the preferred nomenclature is shale-hosted base metal deposits. Whereas Boundary Zone is something different. This is a zinc-lead hydrothermal system. This is veins, vein breccias, matrix infill, etc. And when we went looking for, what other styles of deposits or what other deposits globally have this sort of mineralization in them, what we saw was the lower part of Red Dog has something very similar. And, we discussed this with some tech geologists, and they saw the same similarities we did. What they consider the vein ore looks a lot like what we're seeing at Boundary Zone. So this helped us, take a look at that and build sort of a conceptual model for what Boundary Zone is. And what we see there is a, volcanic and conglomerate and dimictite hosted vein hydrothermal zinc lead system, potentially feeding into a barite horizon, which we do see stratigraphically above Boundary Zone in the surrounding mountains, that might there produce zinc lead massive sulfides, as you see at Red Dog. Of course, the Boundary Zone, as we see it, that feeder system, still incredible scale and grade potential. But, we wanted to think about, okay, well, how do we explore this area? So, we ran a couple gravity lines over it last year, produced strong gravity anomaly in the core of the Boundary Zone, which is about 350 meters along strike. Did another 50 line kilometers of gravity around there. And critically, what we saw was an extension of that core gravity anomaly from about a 350 meter anomaly to well over a kilometer. And it was, just this year and not that long ago that we announced that we had drilled into the western part of that core gravity anomaly, a significant step out from the core of Boundary Zone, and we had hit significant zinc lead mineralization with assays pending. So this effectively takes Boundary Zone, which already had very, very significant scale, and potentially doubles it or greater. So now we're thinking, when we think about Boundary Zone, rather than scale potential in tens of millions of tons, we're thinking scale potential in excess of 100 million tons. And that's all without considering, the other blue sky potential we have in the project. We have numerous other exploration targets there, ranging from drill ready to first hints that we'll be exploring in the coming years. And we do this by, this exploration thesis of looking first at the basin bounding faults and first and second order structures associated with that, looking for corroborating geochemical signatures and geophysical signatures to seek out drill ready targets. And all of this, is kind of the last step in what is a blueprint for value creation. So we take that 2018 PEA with about a 450 million after-tax NPV. Now, NPV is not a perfect analog for value, but it's a pretty good one. We take a look at the government funding, which is going to reduce our upfront capex and improve our NPV. The engineering optimizations and size increases at Tom and Jason are going to both significantly improve NPV. The addition of Boundary Zone through a maiden resource there and integration to the mine plan will very significantly change the NPV of the project. And if any of those exploration targets work out, that again will move the NPV. And what this all sort of plays into is a near-term roadmap where we build on the drilling this year, drill next year to expand Tom and Jason, define a maiden resource at Boundary Zone, and 2022, Q1, Q2, we should be putting out a new global resource for the project and updating the PEA. And we believe that's going to show a true tier 1 zinc lead project, first or second quartile costs, top 10 production profile, and a long multi-cycle mine life. So in summary, bull market's coming. Base metals will start moving soon. We have an impressive resource with numerous zones that have no resource on them. We've received government support for our project, and we have a very catalyst-heavy schedule coming in the next 2 years. Thank you very much. I'm Brendan McDonald, CEO of Fireweed Zinc. If you wish to contact me, you can do so on these details. Thanks.